stepping up to the Prius here. You can see myself here. We open the door, get into the car with the iconic Toyota logo here. This thing is used, but that's how it's supposed to be. Go ahead to turn on the car. This car has push start in 2005, so of course foot on brake, power goes on. Let's put our seatbelts on while we wait for it to come up. As you can hear, there's no gas engine because it's a hybrid. So naturally it just starts in the electric mode. As we can see, our dash, there's the engine. Our dash up here, one of my favorite features is the dash is in this you know, this display. It's just kind of neat. It has your speedo and that kind of retro kind of design. Another interesting thing about this car is that it's touchscreen. So turn on there, and then I don't know if you guys can see right there, but it's touchscreen. You have your buttons for your inputs, you know, and then other than that, it's touchscreen. So there you go. So another notable features, you have some storage cubbies right here, and you have a center console which is almost floating, and it definitely feels like it was just tacked on. My favorite part about this car is getting moving in it. So you take your little knob right here and you go left and then down, which to drive away, that's just, I think that's pretty funny. It's just a reminder, especially in electric cars or modern cars, you really don't need you don't need to have a typical Prindle, you know, park, reverse, neutral, and drive, and then low in most instances. The slow speed characteristics is that the steering is fairly light, which makes things easy, and with that battery, it's very progressive. There is kind of a dead zone in the first little bit of throttle input, but nonetheless, another one of my favorite features about this car is the reverse. So again, you're not chucking it up, you're going and putting it down into neutral and then up into reverse. And even if it's a beeping, even if the car is in gas mode, but you know what, it's better to have it than not. So that's what I'm gonna say. So again, let's put it back into drive and let's get a moving here. In terms of this Prius, of course, this is the most known, this is the most significant generation. This is the second generation, as I mentioned before, and it sold 1.1 million units, which is insane. That's just insane to me, because the previous generation really didn't do anything at all. The previous generation was, I believe, under the same body as a Toyota Echo. I might be wrong. It looks very similar, but it just kind of didn't work too well. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and turn the AC on here so I can see it. There we go, there's some cold air. But yeah, and nowadays, turning along here, nowadays the Prius is 6 million. It's the best selling hybrid electric vehicle of today. And I also think that it's one of the best cars for anyone, that's someone that does not want any kind of sporting in their life. This is a great car. It's quiet, it's comfortable. Again, it gets great fuel economy. That's what it's known for, and it's a fantastic car. Moving along here, stop at the stop sign, look left, look right, and here we go. Let's see what this thing's got in terms of acceleration. This is foot to the floor, and there's nothing. It's really slow, which is to be expected. It's a Prius, that's what it's known for. Again, it has 98 horsepower, which is just hysterical. This thing just like putters along. That's the definition of putters along. But the thing is, I don't know if anyone's ever played GTA, GTA 5 specifically, but they have a Prius in the game, and it feels very similar, where it's so slow to get moving, but once you get it moving, you just feel so steady and stable. And I just think that's a kind of funny correlation between the video game and the real life. Going ahead, braking here. I guess we're gonna stop at the stop sign, stoplight here. The brakes are mushy. The brakes are pretty bad. The brakes are, again, mushy, and it's, you try and push them to stop, and you kind of slow down, and then you're like, okay, and then once you're kind of at the bottom, then it brakes, which I don't know if that's this being an old car, or, you know, why would you need... Talking about the purpose of this car and the hate it gets from enthusiasts, I just cannot understand. This is an incredibly innovative car that, even though it has no sporting capability, it's not fast, it does do its job really, really well, and the engineering behind it is very impressive. You know, everyone astonishes and awes over the fact that F1 cars have 5,000 pound-feet of downforce. But then they're like, the Prius, it gets 60 miles to the gallon. Like, it's one of those things that it's like, well, if a car gets 40 miles per gallon, that's great. If it gets 45, that's even better. 50 is like, wow! Especially in 2005. Like, it's one of those things. It's like with Bentley or Rolls-Royce, you know, it's really only 10 or 5% better than the BMW 7 Series, but why does it cost $500,000 or, you know, $100,000 more dollars? It's because it's that extra 10%. You want the best, you want the most efficient, you want the fastest. You're gonna give that extra bit of engineering, and I just find that incredibly impressive. Looking at some of the sporting characteristics of the Prius, there aren't any. It's like, that's the funniest sentence that you can say in the car community. The sporting characteristics of a Prius, there aren't any. The steering is vague. It's an electric pump steering, so that's you know, that was a newer technology in the 2000s, and obviously it was not perfected. It's completely and totally vague, which is an issue. The throttle, I don't know if it's much of a throttle issue or much of a power issue, but there's nothing, you know, there's absolutely nothing behind that pedal. It's like one tired old horse. And again, as I talked about early on the brakes, you push them down. You know, I'm putting on the brakes now, and you slow down a little bit, and then you have to keep pushing down to keep slowing down, which it just is like, and then you come to a stop. An emergency stop, I would be completely terrified of what would happen, to be honest. That would not be fun. That would, you know, in other cars you're like, okay, fine, whatever, I would be okie dokie, but in this car, ugh. Some other notable parts of the handling, there really isn't any. This car's with the older batteries, it is a heavier car, and it just handles just sloppy. But at the same time, again, it's not a sports car. It is not a sports car, so you have to take everything with a grain of salt, or I guess in this case, it's a grain of a nickel metal alloy battery. So there you go.